What is up, everybody, and welcome to the Friday FanDuel Strategy Show, brought to you by FanDuel. We're going to walk through a little strategy for tonight's slate. Nothing big, not getting into too many specific players because it's still early in the day. It's just a quick glance over the slate itself and how we might strategically play it. So this Friday, just like last Friday, joined by two of the better guys out there in the industry to talk a little baseball with, TJ and John SquirrelPatrol. So, guys, how's it hanging this morning, Squirrel?
Good, yeah. I like that. Like, two of the better guys. Like Kevin Roth is like two of the sharpest minds in the business. We're just two of the better.
Yeah, my bad.
And so I guess it's Good Friday. Like we got the giant Grand Slam on FanDuel. Like it's a big like $44 contest. Like FanDuel's been running tickets for this for a long time, so I got a bunch of tickets for that. I realized I'm doing crunch time, so I'm going to be trying to get in all my lineups all on crunch time, but should be a good time.
There's nothing like those tickets, man. Like having those tickets accumulating, and then the payday comes. I wish I could do more willpower to get in that when those satellites are running. But TJ, how you doing over there? You bundled up? You're cold? Your furnace is broke? What the hell's going on, man?
Yeah, bundled up and chilly, so hopefully we can heat ourselves up with some good DFS plays. But yeah, a couple days ago, my power went out. It's been windy, and a tree branch fell on a power line, and the power's only out for like maybe half hour tops. But ever since, the furnace hasn't been connecting. So been trying to figure it out on my own. It hasn't gone well, so I think it's time to bring in a professional.
Well, what took me kind of like a little bit by surprise is you said the weather was 50-ish, 60-ish where you're at. Like, we're almost in June, man. Summertime. That's crazy.
We get a nice, like, 2-3 months of 80, 90 degree weather, and it's just beautiful, green everywhere. But, yeah, that is one of the negatives of where I live, is it's not too hot too often.
I mean, I don't mind cold weather. I don't mind cold. It just takes me by surprise, man, that weather could be that cold this close to summertime. But you know what? Like you said, we're gonna heat up with some winners here, man. We're gonna take something down tonight. Let's get into this build here. We got 12 games on FanDuel, and we'll start off with the pitching, a general overview. Don't have to get too specific right now. Just a general overview. I have to say, when I looked at it, it was really weird because with 12 games, 24 pitchers, I know you know roughly 24. You're gonna have openers and all that kind of stuff, but a lot of pitchers. Like there's no aces out there tonight. I wouldn't classify anybody as an ace, and it's broken up legit into 3 parts, almost equal good pitchers, equal bad pitchers, and the third tier is mediocre pitchers. You kind of don't know where to classify them. It's like a third, and a third. So start off with TJ, man. How are you handling this type of pitching slate?
So for pitchers today, I think we are definitely going to be able to look at where ownership lines up and then just find ways to pivot off the chalk, because on a slate this big with no real stud aces out there, I mean, Eric Lauer's kind of played like an ace this year. Tariq Skubbal's kind of played like an ace this year, but no bona fide aces out there. I think we can really just try and go wherever we want, because this is going to be a pitching slate where I don't think there's good reason for there to be chalk. I think that we're going to be able to find ways to pivot off of there. So my biggest plan today is just going to be trying to get different at pitcher. There's such a smorgasbord of guys that I'm not worried too much about who the top projected one is, and I'm willing to switch things up a little bit.
I think I'm in the same boat as far as not really locking into one guy. Then one guy don't jump out, and initially I know it's early in the day, and it'll get a little bit sharper closer to game time. But Julio Urias drawing a lot of ownership. Sean Manaea deservedly so, kind of, but those two guys are drawing a lot of ownership, and then a big gap, and then just kind of spread out everywhere. Squirrel, how does that ownership, affect the way you're treating this pitching slate?
Yeah, I kind of prefer this kind of pitching slate because there's no like one ace, and sometimes that can be a little bit frustrating because it becomes a very binary decision of it. Like you got to either go with this guy or you're fading, the massive chalk. There really is no massive chalk, so there's kind of good pitchers to pick and choose from. I got a few guys that I like, but yeah, nobody's drawing like that outsized ownership, and I don't even know like if Urias is going to end up being the highest owned pitcher. It might be Minaya. It could be any number of guys. So yeah, we'll just see how it shapes out.
Yeah, we'll see how it shapes out. So let's talk about some stacks and stuff. I want to pull up the weather report real quick just to see where we're at, because it's very interesting. Really nothing to speak of except for the one course field, like the one game that has a weather issue is course field. And it seems like it's probably gonna wait a minute. It's 32 and snowing. Yeah, that's what it's crazy, man. The weather. It's almost June. It's almost summertime, and there's 32 and snowing in Colorado. But Ross says no way they play this game. What's up, guys? What do you think? What happens if we're at 15 minutes to lock and they haven't canceled it yet? TJ, both of you guys. TJ first. What happens if we're sitting there 15 minutes before lock and they haven't canceled this game yet?
If it's 15 minutes before lock and they haven't canceled it, I'm still going to be a little skeptical just because this game does take place an hour and a half after lock starts. But if it's 15 minutes close to this game and they still haven't played it, there are other pivot options afterwards with the Angels and San Fran and San Diego don't look like super top tier offenses today, but there are still different pivot options if it otherwise. So I most likely won't be playing this game. However, if it's 15 minutes to lock, nobody's playing it. Yeah, maybe if I'm running 150, I'd try and have some in there, but it wouldn't be a single entry type game for me because even if it does play, it's 32 and snowing. So yes, it's Coors Field, but it's still cold. So we got some other games like Cleveland today that look like we got some really good weather. So I don't think probably this is going to be one of the offenses I'm targeting today.
Squirrel, we got I know it's bad weather. I've actually seen it though, man, when it's snowing and they're still ripping home runs in Colorado. It's crazy. But let's just say we're there. We're up against the wall and you've got your 150 lineups. You got to make a decision. They haven't canceled it yet. We got a couple of team totals here creeping up around 5 or so. I think, let me see that. Yeah, 5 and a little bit over 5. What are you doing if we're up against the wall here and still no signs of a cancellation?
I put my fate in the hands of Kevin Roth. If he says the game's not going to play, he's got the dark red on there, like I'm not going to play it. And it, especially because it's two pretty highly, it's Coors Field, it's two highly projected teams, like two higher implied run totals. Like I think it'll be popular. If it's not canceled, I think it's going to be pretty popular because people are going to go in there, like just put in their projections and just roll it. I still think there's a good chance it gets canceled, after lock. I still think there's a good chance the game totally busts if it's snowing. I mean, I can't imagine they're just hitting that many home runs if it's, if it's really 32 degrees and snowing. So, and I think the game will be over-owned regardless. So I'm probably going to fade it.
It's Friday night. There's been studies done that Kevin Roth drinks a little wine on Friday night. Maybe he's not as accurate in his forecast there, man. So I don't know. Putting your faith in Roth.
I'm going to be on crunch time with him, I think. So I'll see what he's drinking, and then make a decision based on
adapt based on the alcohol percentage in Roth's drink.
Yeah. So it's interesting that's the one game that has a big weather question. Well, not even a question. It looks like it's going to get canceled. So could be down to only 11 games. But let's talk about a few stacks now that we could play. If I'm sorting by team totals tonight, obviously the Mets jump up at the top, but that probably going to get canceled. So start off with a Squirrel here. Like I made a comment that it's like broken down into 3 tiers of pitching, and there's no ace. There's like no aces that you say, oh, there's no way I can take a batter against that guy. I don't want to play. Like everybody's on the table here. So how are we handling like stacks tonight? Is everybody going to remain in your player pool, or are you just going in there and scratching some teams off?
I think so. I think it's kind of the mirror image of there's no ace pitchers. Like there's no offenses that I'm totally confident are going to bust. And even some of the offenses that play in good pitchers parks are kind of moving to like a little bit of better hitters parks. Like Tampa's going to Baltimore, which isn't as good of a hitter's park as it's been in the past, but it's better than Tampa. You've got the Dodgers going to Philadelphia. So those are kind of some of the teams that I like. I'm probably going to try to avoid high ownership stacks, like particularly if it's the Coors Field game, if that's not canceled. But there's no team that I'm writing off entirely. Like I'll go, if I'm doing 150 lineups, I'll go straight down the list and try to make sure I've got some of every team.
TJ, how are you handling these stacks on such a big slate with such spread out pitching?
Yeah, similar boat for me. I'll try and get a lot of pieces of everything, but with the ones I'm really probably going to try and target are the high upside offenses that aren't picking up a lot of ownership. So worrying even not so much about team total, but just talent in that offense. And so some of the teams I'm looking at, while the Yankees are picking up a lot of rostership, they deserve it, but it's going to be tough to get over the field on that because a lot of people are going there. So some of the other teams I'm looking at that I think could maybe match the Coors Field game, match the Yankees would be the Blue Jays, the Astros, who was the third team I was looking at, and the Dodgers. Three teams that aren't picking up, I think, the amount of rostership that they should be. And they're teams that there's enough talent in that lineup that if they're hitting the ball well, they can put up the same type of upside as the teams like the Yankees who have a phenomenal matchup.
Yeah, fair enough. So is there I go to whose dog was that? I didn't know whose dog
that was mine there. I got the mute button ready to.
All right, let me go to John then on this one real quick. Like, from a strategy standpoint, on a night like tonight, 12, maybe 11 games, lots of offenses out there. Are you limiting or plugging into lineup HQ 10 X amount of stacks, or are you just kind of like cool with just stacking and letting the projections take care of who you're not playing? You know what I mean? Like, are you limiting your stacks, or are you defining it to these are the 10 stacks I want, or are you just like letting the projection do the work for you?
Yeah, I'm going to do like, I want, like X percent of stacks. And that percent is actually going to be a percent that makes sure I get like every single team.
Okay.
And I think like, and it's specific to tonight's slate because I think there's really just there's no aces. So there's no team that's going to get shut down. So like I can see all the way down the implied run total, like even like those teams at the bottom, like, Texas or Cincinnati, the Royals, like those are teams I still want to have a little bit of exposure to. And I won't have as much as I have to like some of the top offenses, but like I think you could see any team putting up like 10 runs tonight.
Yeah, that's actually the exact same way that I do it as well. I'd make sure I get a little bit of everyone, and then I'll look and see if I still have some room in the percentages to get some more. That's when I double down on some teams that I don't think are picking up enough rostership. So for me today, I think like the Yankees are going to be my top projected stack. They're going to be super highly owned as well. So I'm going to make sure I still get an adequate amount of Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and the righty stack all the way, even with Rizzo, but all the way through to Torres and Donaldson. They're just great plays today. So what I am going to do, probably just try and get around the field there, but then get a little bit of everyone and then try and double the field on my Torontos, my Houstons, my Phillies, my Dodgers, the teams that I think have high upside that aren't picking up enough rostership.
It's interesting because I kind of just go in there and find some teams I like and just say jam these guys in there and don't give me any of these other teams that I didn't put in there. So it's interesting how it works out like that. But so within those stacks, okay, first off, for both of you guys, start with TJ, like on a slate like this, just generally looking at it or the number of games and everything, is it a 4x4? Because we're just dealing with FanDuel, you can only 4 max and all. Is it 4x4, 4x3-1, or what's your standard stack size for you tonight?
Standard is definitely 4x4, but what I love about Lineup HQ is I think this actually just got added last year is the only in stack feature. That has really increased the amount that I play 4x3s because it makes it so I just only get home run hitters other than my stacks. And so that's where I like to look at the stack things in Lineup HQ. And I maybe double down on a team that I don't love the full stack, but I love a few guys. And so on those ones, maybe I'll up the secondary stack percentage on Lineup HQ. So I get more 3-man stacks with them. And then I try and up the percentage of players I get. So today, for example, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge. I'm not going to have anybody in the Coors Field as a one-off just in case that gets canceled. But Shohei Ohtani, Yordan Alvarez, Juan Soto, like these are players that regardless of whether or not I'm stacking or not, I want to get them in my lineup. So I probably will get around say 50 to 70% 4-4s, 50 to 30%, 30 to 50% 4-3s, and making sure that I get my home run hitters as my one-offs in the 4-3s.
Squirrel, you a 4-4 guy, or do you like to diversify a little bit?
I tend to be more 4-3s, and part of the reason is like I'll play the qualifiers, and there you really don't want to tie for first place because then you basically have to like win it twice, and that's kind of true for all GPPs as time goes on. Like you want to be finishing first place solo, and there tends to be some like duplicated like 4-4 stacks. But what I'll tend to do is actually run a bunch of 4-3s and then go through the one-offs and see like is there somebody that I could swap to that's at about the same projection that is one of these two teams. I'll sacrifice some projection to try to make it a 4-4. So I end up with some combination of 4-4s and 4-3s, and I'll take a look at like the 4-4s and see like is when I'm making it a 4-4, is it likely to be a duplicated lineup, or maybe I'm using a less chalky pitcher, so it's unlikely someone's going to have that 4-4 stack.
Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of agree there. Let's see. Let's find out. Let's talk a little bit about some. Or if you're in your stacks, I don't know if you guys have identified any favorite stacks yet. Teams that you'll have more of than the other. But if you have you identified any stacks within that game? First of all, okay, before I get to that, both of you, any game stacks tonight? Any just pure raw? Like I got to load up on both these two teams right here. Any game stacks, TJ?
The one you're looking at, right? The one that you got your mouse on right there, the Dodgers and the Phillies. And these are two high-power offenses against two good pitchers. And Arise especially is probably going to pick up a little bit of rostership. But I love just like that Will Smith, Justin Turner, Max Muncy, Chris Taylor, Cody Bellinger. Like I love that middle to back half of the Dodgers stack. No one ever plays them. And these are great hitters that are not priced up. Like Chris Taylor is somebody that would be near the top of most lineups, and he's consistently 6 through 8 for the Dodgers, and especially facing a lefty, he's somebody I like getting to. So I really like that stack. And then you look at the Phillies here, also facing a lefty. Rhys Hoskins has been on an absolute tear hitting leadoff lately. And plus you got guys like Nick Castellanos, Gene Segura, Alec Boehm, and of course Bryce Harper, who all hit lefties well. And this isn't a team that's going to pick up very much rostership today. So those are two teams I'm very, very interested in because they won't necessarily look great in projections, but they still have very high upside.
Squirrel, any straight up game stacks that jump out to you?
Yeah, TJ took my game stack. I was looking at it earlier. I was like, oh, I like the Dodgers, like the Phillies. Like, oh, they're playing each other. Right? That's convenient. But yeah, it is. Like people don't talk about what a good pitcher's park like Dodger Stadium is anymore. Because like the Dodgers offense is so good, we forget about it. But like now they're going to Philadelphia, and they're the road team, so they're going to get a guaranteed 9 innings. They're definitely one of my favorite offenses tonight. And then, yeah, Philly, I think, can crush it as well. Like, I'm not sold on Urias being – like, if he's the highest owned pitcher, that's great because I think we're going to be playing a lot of Phillies. So, yeah, like that as a game stack.
All right. That's interesting. So, if you've identified your favorite stack on the night, 11 games, maybe 12 games, within that lineup, what's your favorite 4-man combo? To now start with you, Squirrel, if you have one identified yet, that favorite 4-man combo tonight out of that stack, any stack?
Let me think. I kind of like the Dodgers. I kind of like the idea of actually going with the more expensive hitters, though. Let's see.
If you want to take a peek at that, I've actually identified a few that I really like already. The Dodgers all the way through, like something like Turner through Taylor, or like Trey Turner through Taylor, stuff like that. I absolutely love. For the Phillies, it's Hoskins, Boehm, Castellanos and Segura. I'm not sure Harper's 100%, and he's the priciest one, so he's probably the one I'd leave out. But then if we just scroll a little bit down as well to the Toronto Blue Jays there, the top 4 stack in the Blue Jays lineup is one of my all-time favorites to stack, and we got a guy like Vladimir Guerrero, who's anytime he's below 4K, he's a absolute fantastic play. So that's the top 4 in the Blue Jays lineup is one of my favorites. And then if you have a lineup that is very not chalky everywhere else, the one just to the left of your cursor there that I really like is Judge, Stanton, Donaldson, Torres. Maybe I'd want to get Rizzo instead of Donaldson. But Torres is just too cheap. Judge and Stanton are both hitting the ball ridiculously well. And Stanton, for some reason, got a price decrease on FanDuel after his little home run tear lately. So if you're already different in your lineup, I love the Judge, Stanton, Donaldson, Torres. But then 3 of the other stacks that I like that aren't going to be picking up their same rostership. It's the top 4 in the Blue Jays, and then the middle of the Dodgers, and the top of the Phillies.
Yeah, how does the Yankees was the one I was going to look at. If it's enough players tonight, the ownership may get watered down a little bit. You know, like if this was a 5 or 6 game slate, they'd be massively owned against Keuchel. But I think you go Judge, Stanton, Donaldson, those top 3, and then I can alternate. I can throw in a Rizzo, Torres, Hicks, LeMahieu, as long as I'm keeping it in the top 7 right there. You know, I should be good to go. Squirrel, you got anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think I like those Dodgers. Like I like Betts, Trey Turner, Freddie Freeman. He's lefty, but he's facing a left-handed pitcher, so I don't think he's going to be very highly owned. But this offense could just tear it up in Philadelphia tonight.
Is that more of a probably lower ownership than they should be? Is it more of I really like just the Dodgers period, or is it like I just don't believe in Ranger Suarez?
Yeah, I think it's all of those things. And especially like if that Coors Field game plays, I think like the Mets in Colorado are going to be 2 of the highest owned stacks. And then I think everybody else is going to end up being overlooked. And then if that's the case, I think I'm going to be concentrating on those teams like, like Dodgers, Yankees, Houston, Toronto, that could see some ownership, but they're not going to see enough because of the Coors Field game. If the Coors Field game is canceled like well in advance, then I'm probably going to be going a little bit farther down my list to some teams like Tampa, Boston that I think could do well, but are going to see like very, very little ownership.
Yeah. The Astros will probably be popular, relative speaking, on this kind of slate. I think in the whole time I've played DFS, every single time I stack against Martin Perez, like every game he's on the mound, I will stack against him. I think that's only paid off for me like one time in 6 years. Like, I don't know what it is, but the guy always is the nuts against teams he shouldn't be hanging with.
So as we talk about these stacks and stuff, before we get out of here, there's a specific pitcher I'm going to need the 2 of you to talk to me about, because he's played 1 game. He was very good in that game. He's going to be picking up some rostership. He's real cheap. He's projecting well. And I just made myself a team of stacks that I really, really love. And Chase Silseth was the pitcher that fit in my lineup. Can either of you guys tell me anything about Chase Silseth?
Yeah,
you got it.
Yeah, like highly regarded prospect, but he hasn't pitched above Double-A, I don't think. But he faced Oakland in his first start and did pretty well. And now he's facing Oakland again. And that they can go 2 ways. One, like they've seen him once, so it probably increases his chances that he has a complete dud. But like Oakland's the worst offense in the league, so maybe I really like Silseth tonight. Like I like the idea of taking a bunch of highly priced bats, like 2 highly priced stacks, and you can put Silseth in there. He's facing the worst offense in the league. He's a talented pitcher, so there's definitely some risk. But yeah, as soon as you started talking, I knew who you were talking about, because I think he's an outlier price for the score he could put up.
Yeah,
I don't know enough about him.
It's really looking at it, and it's just you can make so many beautiful combinations of Dodgers, Yankees, Blue Jays, Phillies, all these high price, high powered offenses that outside the Yankees aren't picking up the rostership. Same with Houston, like we talked about. I can get these the Yordan Alvarez, the Jose Altuve's, Kyle Tucker's, guys who Alex Bregman, people who they're priced up, and I can get to them with Silseth. So it's definitely interesting for me.
Yeah. So while we're on pitchers, we're gonna end this thing with let's all choose our favorite couple of pitchers tonight to roll with. Squirrel, I'll start with you. Your favorite couple of pitchers.
I'll go with Robbie Ray, and actually I'll do the opposite. So Seth, I'll go with Eric Lauer because I think he's going to be low owned, but he can put up the highest score, and he's expensive. He's the most expensive pitcher on the slate, and I think it's really going to drive down his ownership. And I think you can find some less expensive stacks to pair him with.
TJ, got a couple good pitchers you're going to be throwing in your lineups tonight?
Yeah, so if I'm playing cash games, if I just want the person I'm most comfortable with, it's going to be Robbie Ray for me. He showed last game that even if he gives up runs, which he very well may, he still has an incredibly long leash and he can still strike guys out. So he's probably the one I'm most comfortable with. And Robbie Ray in cash games is kind of a weird thing to say, but it is what it is. The two players I think I'm probably most going to try and get underweight on, three, I guess, is if Urias is actually going to pick up that much ownership, I'm out on him. But I'm probably out on him anyways. And then the other two, I'm probably going to look to get underweight on Sean Manaea, just because he's picking up a ton of rostership, as well as Luis Castillo facing the Toronto. He is too low priced, but I think Toronto is going to be getting to him early and often today. So that's someone I'm going to get away from. Pitchers I like that are picking up the ownership: Robbie Ray, Chase Silseth. I'm going to be getting to them despite them picking up some ownership. And then I'm honestly kind of interested in just eyes closed rolling with Silseth in these high price stacks and seeing where it goes, because I really don't like the pitchers today. I agree with the Lauer call. I agree with the Robbie Ray call, but I think I'm actually going to have a much tighter pool than I was expecting to have. A pitcher I've liked targeting this year is Paul Blackburn, but facing the Angels in Angel Stadium, I don't think I can get to him today. Tariq Skubal has shown just crazy high strikeout upside this year, but he's facing a Cleveland team that doesn't strike out a ton in Cleveland, where they have a ton of wind blowing out today. And then Nestor Cortez, similar situation. Yeah, he's got a lot of strikeout upside, but he's going to be facing a Chicago White Sox team that's firing out all right-handed batters who are strong against lefties. So Silseth, Ray, and Eric Lauer, I'm on the same page. I think I'm really going to be keeping it pretty tight there.
I'll throw a couple names out there. You mentioned Skubal. I kind of like him. I don't think he's going to get any ownership tonight at all. Cleveland's coming off of, I think they got swept by Cincinnati here recently. Maybe they're hitting the skids a little bit. I'll take a shot on it. He's got arm talent. And then the other guy I don't think we mentioned all shows, Christian Javier, coming off of a terrible start recently. But I'm not super impressed with Texas as a lineup in general. I don't know what kind of ownership Javier is going to get. He's got strikeout stuff. Maybe it was just a bad day. So maybe this is when he rebounds. But I'm with you guys. I think we spread it out a little bit. I don't think you're going to lose too much, even if you take a flyer on a cheaper pitcher. I don't think there's a dominator out there that's going to make you pay for it. Like, a big time Garrett Cole 60-point performance or anything like that. I think you can get away with even a mediocre start from your pitcher tonight. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. And
on that note, quick, with just the mediocre start from the pitcher might do it. In terms of Javier, I do think he's probably going to be the mid-range guy that people go to. And so I think, and he just doesn't have a very high pitch count. So the one guy I think I'm interested in maybe going to instead, just simply based on this offense has not been hitting the ball very well lately. And that offense I'm referring to is the San Diego Padres. And I think I might have a little bit of interest in Jacob Junis as a complete off the wall flyer of just, if I want somebody in the mid tier that I think can maybe get me 6 innings and 30-ish points, I think he might be the one I'd go to there.
Fair enough, guys. That's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back next week with another show. Just a little something to wet your beak here before the lineups start coming out later on in the afternoon. So Tune in to Grinders Live, get in Discord, crunch time, all that good stuff. Until next week, for Squirrel, for TJ, I was Chop, and we're out of here.